Hello there, guys. Welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. Today, we've got a very special guest and someone that I've wanted on the channel for quite some time after hassling him at a conference at the start of this year. But before we get into this, before we get into the conversation, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you for tuning in to yet again another episode of E&Ftv. If you haven't already, please don't forget to press that subscribe button. We bring you content every single week with amazing commercial and operational leaders throughout our industry, and we'd love for you to join the community. So please do click the subscribe button. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below on our episode today, and we'll see you towards the end. So, Klaus Kohlmayr.
Yes,
Thank you
that's
so
right.
much for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedule, traveling across the globe constantly. Klaus, I know that you've had a really busy few days. I just saw a post. I know I just spoke to you about this. I just saw a post of you talking about high tech and HSMAI. And that's one of the points we're going to be touching on today is the types of conversations that you have with some of the brightest and most intelligent people in the industry across the world. And I imagine that is an incredibly fortunate position to be in. And again, we will jump into that. But before anything else, what I'd love to hear, because we have a lot of students and people at the start of their careers, and they love hearing about different leaders and how they got to where they are. So I suppose I want to shut up for a second and I want to hand over the mic to you. But can you tell us a bit about your background, your career, and what brought you to be Chief Evangelist and Development Officer for Ideas? What a job title that is in
Mm.
itself.
Thank you, Tom. No, I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on the show. I've been following it for quite a while, so
I
it was
appreciate it.
great when you asked me. I immediately said yes, of course.
I know you did. I was
Yeah,
shocked.
I knew what I was getting into. So yeah, just a little bit about my background. I always when I speak to students, high school students or college students, I always say. My being here is a combination of three or four factors. One is luck, one is ambition, one is passion,
Yeah,
and one is flexibility.
yeah,
And you have to have all of those in order to kind of make a professional kind of journey like
yeah.
I have. I went to hotel school in Austria when I was 15, and then I graduated, I guess, 5 years later when I guess I was 19. So somewhere my math doesn't stack up. And then after military service, I went to the U.S. and worked for a resort in the Rocky Mountains for a year and a half,
Mm.
which was amazing as an Austrian passionate skier, living in
Yeah,
the
of
Rocky
course.
Mountains and getting free skiing for the winter was perfect. My 20s, and then I started my journey around the world. I worked for first independent hotels in Switzerland, and then I
Mm.
joined because I felt I wanted a global career. I joined Intercontinental Hotels,
Yeah,
actually Intercontinental Hotels before it was part of the Holiday Inn, kind of the
for
larger
sure.
company.
Yeah.
And I worked in Vienna and then New York and then Paris at the Intercontinental hotels there. And over time, I became passionate about this interaction between price and demand, and
Mm.
how guests react to price, and how you can use price as a lever to influence demand, literally.
Yeah.
And as I became more and more passionate about it, and I was working as a front office manager in Paris at one point, my general manager, who was amazing, great mentor of mine, asked me, well, I see you're very passionate about these numbers thing and this pricing thing and yield management thing. Why don't you do it full time? And we'll get somebody else to take care of the
Right.
guests. And I was like, oh, this is brilliant. I love it. So I then became head of revenue management, first at one Intercontinental, then at two Intercontinentals in Paris. And then the corporate office noticed me at Intercontinental Hotels. At that point, we were bought already by what at that point was Holiday Inn, I think Holiday Inn, some corporation or something.
Right.
And they asked me to move to the corporate office in London to oversee Intercontinental Hotels revenue management team, which was me. And I was the first one. And I remember when I walked into the office the first day, the head of EMEA, or actually the global head of Intercontinental, looked at me and said, I have no idea what you're doing, but here's your office. Just go do what you're supposed to do. Because
I
nobody had heard
love
of revenue management. And then after a while, I was moved. I wanted to move again, and I ended up in Singapore looking after revenue management pricing. for all of Asia Pacific, all the Crown Plazas, Holiday Inns, Intercontinental
Wow.
hotels. So
Yeah.
anywhere between, I guess, Pakistan to Bora Bora, including China and India and Japan. So that was very exciting because it was at a time of great growth.
Yeah.
And the leader there, Patrick Immordelli, he ran the region like a startup. So I got to
Right.
see all the kind of the energy of the startup world. And then after a few years, I had used ideas in Paris as a user. I was one of the first hotels to get the system in the late 90s. I got closer and closer to ideas, and eventually I joined ideas to head up to form and build their consulting division.
Right.
Ideas being a
Yep.
pretty small company at that point. I think it was 180 people. And then my journey with Ideas started there in 2007 in Singapore. And then Ideas wanted me to come to the head office here in Minneapolis. And I've been
Yeah.
here since 2010.
Amazing. And uh, in terms of that, because I know again we said off camera, I wrongly assumed that your background was just hotel tech. That's what you lived and breathed for the pretty much the whole of your career. And of course, once I dived a little bit deeper, and of course you've spoken about it now, the
Mm.
transition just makes so much sense because you were so passionate about that area of the market and stepping into ideas. And you're the first person that I've spoken to that has spoken about ideas back when they were a small company. Whereas now, of
Yeah.
course, they are a giant in our industry. You know, there is nobody that doesn't know who ideas are. And I
Right.
suppose that journey, you spoke about somebody that mentored you, you spoke about the lessons that you sort of picked up along the way. Is there anything in particular, again, mainly for the younger audience that we've got, but it could
Mm.
be for sort of
Mm.
seasoned professionals as well? Is there anything that sticks in your mind or key areas of learning that really transformed you throughout that career and made you maybe the leader you are today?
Yeah, I think that's, as I said, a combination of curiosity, ambition, and
Mm.
luck and flexibility
Sure.
uh, really got me why I'm here today. I'm a very, very curious person, and even when I
Sure.
was working in hotels, when I was trying to understand this price demand relationship, I started learning how to code myself in Excel, and I started
Right.
building these spreadsheets and to figure out kind of where the patterns are and where the data
Yeah.
is and what the data says. So while I'm a hotel person at heart, really I love the industry and I wouldn't work anywhere else if I could choose. Then I'm also a very a data-driven person, and it's
Yeah.
like combination
Yeah.
of curiosity in data and passion for hospitality
Yeah.
that kind of ended up for me being in this place. And flexibility is always is I always tell the next generation of leaders that
Mm.
flexibility is all about putting your hands up for whatever opportunity comes along.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? When I was sitting in Paris and people said, "Do you want to move to London and work at the corporate office?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then when somebody asked me, "Do you want to move to Singapore?" And I was actually on my way to the US for a different job, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to move to Singapore?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So it's always that. It's always that. Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Why not? I'll give it a try, and I will give it my best to deliver on the expectations that are being set, right? Which is ultimately you need to do that too. You need to
Yeah.
perform, right?
Have you
But
always
yeah, go ahead.
had, I was going to say, have you always
Yeah.
had, because for a lot of people, I don't know if you may have felt this at the start, but that first big move another country or another region of the world, have you ever had that apprehension, or have you always had the attitude of, "Yep, let's go, I'll figure it out"? Has there ever been a transition, or have you always just been in that headspace?
I'm a eternal optimist. So I always think things will work out, and
Sure.
and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The only time I've ever said no to a job was when I was asked. I was in London. I was asked to move to Frankfurt to run
Right.
kind of the German region for revenue management, and I felt to myself that A, Frankfurt doesn't sound exciting, and B,
No.
it wasn't a move that I wanted to take at this point. I just felt it wasn't the right progression for me.
Sure.
So I said no to that, and as a result, a few months later, I ended up in Singapore, which was
Right.
obviously much better.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but in general, the most recent example a few years ago, I'm part of the executive team at Ideas, and we sat around the table and said we should really lean into innovation and growing our capabilities beyond kind of the core what we've done for so many years.
Yeah.
And we came up with this idea of an innovation lab. And when the question came up, well, who should run and set up this innovation lab, which really didn't exist at that time, I just put
Yeah.
my hand up and say, hey, that sounds interesting. Why not? Um, so it's one of those examples is I don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm
Yeah.
curious to figure it out and I'm curious to make it happen. And in the end, it has been happening for the last few years. So, and it's
Yeah.
been pretty successful. So you have to take risks, right? And you have to
Yeah.
be able to deal with uncertainty and chaos and just let your curiosity drive you as long as you
Yeah.
can combine it with a passion for ambition. Curiosity and
Of
ambition
course.
go hand in
Yeah.
hand, right? Because ultimately you also need to want to have that drive to succeed.
Yes. No, absolutely. And it again, I've never I said this off camera, but I've obviously watched you for years, but I've
Mm.
never seen I've never seen you in one place for more than a week or whatever it might be. I know it might not be actually like that in real life, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
not.
yeah, it's so awesome to see someone like you, and I've said this a million times on this channel before, someone that is constantly flying the flag for revenue
Mm.
management, but also wider commercial, of course, but in a way that, and I know I said this off camera, but the thing that I've always appreciated about your content is that you're able to uh, sort of get across to people like me who are not as in that headspace to be able to understand complex, either complex information or complex sort of stats and whatever, to be able to understand it, digest it, and be able to use it. And that's something that I've always taken from your content is the conversations that you have, although they are with incredibly bright minds and amazing people in our industry, you're able to make it accessible for people that may not be in that world, which I think is such a rare thing for content people out there. So again, just an appreciation part on
Thank
that,
you.
just for the sake of this.
Thank
But
you.
um speaking of
And I don't
things
have
that
a secret. I don't have a secret sauce, so I don't know where that comes from, right? But thank you. I appreciate the comment.
No, no, not at all. And again, sort of brings me on quite nicely, really, to my well, my first question, I suppose, to you, because it was about a piece of content or a post that you put out, and it talked about how things have sort of flipped with regards to smaller groups and smaller brands and independents really taking the lead in terms of hospitality tech, whereas historically, and I've always found this, but historically, it's always been big brands. It's always been the big corporates. What do you think? Because it was a really interesting post, but what do you think has changed to cause this? Because I found that such an interesting post. Because as I say, I've
Mm.
always known, although the big corporates have always been ahead and leading it, if I'm honest with you, I've always had this thought that they can be quite sluggish at times. So, what's changed in the industry to cause this sort of flip in dynamics, I suppose?
Yeah, yeah, and I don't want to speak badly about the brands because the brands have been leading innovation and they continue to lead
Yeah,
innovation, and they have these capitals at their disposal where they can
yeah,
spend millions and billions of dollars on creating new technologies that then benefit everyone. So they have done and they continue to do an amazing job.
yeah,
Obviously within their hierarchy and corporate structures and being public companies that they have to operate in, right? I think
yeah,
this is really the golden age for the independents and smaller
mm,
hotels because all of us, we have democratized technology to a point where there is no more excuses that you cannot get access to the same type of technology
right,
than somebody with billions of dollars on the balance sheet has, right?
sure,
You can get the best channel manager and the best CRM and the best revenue management system and the best tech stack overall and make that work for you, no matter what type of hotel you are and no
yeah,
matter where you are, at a price point that's affordable and can be actually simple enough to be used by anyone in a hotel, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's been the big change over the last 10 years that technology is at the point where anyone can just utilize it. And if you don't, then you're just making excuses that are no longer relevant.
sure, okay. And I suppose, is that the independence, having that confidence to be able to investigate? Because of course, like
Mm,
looking at any or reviewing a tech stack, it takes time, it takes collaboration. You're going to need someone in the business that understands that piece of technology and so on. And then, of course, the implementation stage and all that. Are we seeing a rise in confidence from the independents to say, yes, this is the time? Or is it just a simple case of if we don't do it now, we're going to be behind everybody else? Is there sort of a, I don't want to say a fear factor, but is there sort of looking at the industry as a whole and thinking if we don't do something now, we are going to be behind our competitors? What,
I
in
think
terms of those conversations, yeah,
there's a larger recognition and acceptance of that. Yes, we need to do something, otherwise we fall
sure,
behind. There is still many hotels that are happy with just putting their rooms on booking and letting
hmm,
booking be their,
yeah,
their sales and marketing and distribution channel and everything
yeah,
else. So, even in revenue management, when we look at the penetration of revenue management systems, 90% of hotels, when you look at, there's about 600,000 hotels to
yeah,
800,000 hotels out there, only 10% have a revenue management technology, right?
wow,
And the same is true for PMS, and the same is true for CRM and everything else. So there's
mm,
the acceptance of technology is increasing, and
yeah,
people are realizing that they need something. But there's also, especially in Europe and in Asia, there's a lot of people saying, well, it's good enough. I've done it like this for 20 years and I'm happy to work on a spreadsheet or a guest book, right? Where I
right,
just write down all the reservations. So
wow.
it's growing. It's not the majority yet. Right. So
No.
that's why it's so exciting, because there's such a big opportunity still, right?
Well, this is it, right? Because then if you look at that market share, you've still got so much to still chew on. Because
Yes.
we're seeing more and more um tech solutions popping up every single year, advancements,
Yeah.
AI, of course. I don't think we could jump on any podcast or a stage at any conference now without hearing AI.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those where opportunities are going to become more and more, I think, for the tech side of things. But I think if we flipped that, the opportunity now more than ever for independents and smaller hospitality groups to be able to take advantage of accessible products that fall within their price or within their budget has
Mm,
there's never been more of a plethora of options out there.
I agree.
and
I
and
agree.
again, the advancements that we're seeing, it's making for a very exciting period of time. I mean, what do you see? And again, this isn't something I've said
Yeah.
over to you previously, but what do you see in terms of the next, say, 5 years with regards to maybe the activity of pickup with regards to people taking more products, or what do you think people are looking for maybe that would change their minds? Is there anything like that that you've had conversations with people about?
Well, yeah, a lot of conversations about what will change their mind. If you're a family-owned property with 10 rooms,
Yeah, yeah,
and you're in that space, I think what
mm,
will change your mind is that you will see other competitors or other people in that space adopting more and more these, more
yeah, yeah,
platform technologies and platforms and systems that are available to you, like Apple or Cloud Beds,
yeah,
or any of these ones that have like platform philosophy behind it, right? So
mm,
it's becoming easier and easier to just tap into that and
yeah,
even trial it out and then switch
yeah,
it out if you're not happy with it, right? And I think one of the fear factors so far has been that, oh, if I install this piece of technology, it's going to cost me a lot of money, and then if I don't like it, it's going to be painful to replace. But
right,
even that is becoming easier, because now you could just download something, pay for it, trial it
yeah,
out, and if you don't like it, you uninstall it and
just
put
yeah,
something else into your stack, right? So
yeah,
we'll see more and more these plug and play solutions and
mm,
platforms where you have a data layer that aggregates and consolidates all of your data. You will have
yeah,
agents on top that will use that data to make decisions or provide recommendations, right, across the entire operation of a hotel. And then you have apps that sit on top of it that you will be able to plug to move in and out, right, install
yeah,
and deinstall.
yeah,
So think about your phone, and how you're using your phone today, which has the OS as a platform
yeah,
layer that aggregates your data, and then you have your app sitting on top of it. That's what we're seeing is where the industry is moving for that more independent space. Is you have these
yes,
apps that sit on top of consolidated and aggregated data.
yeah. And I guess that, as you say, that fear factor of it being too complicated, too complex. We're only a small business. Again, it's that thing of plug and play. You download, it works. If you don't like it, just just get
Yes,
rid of the file. And again,
correct.
that's the age that we're in now, where it is that, I don't want to say that's simple, but it's that straightforward for a hotelier to be able to say, right, we're going to trial this and we're going to see how it goes. Whereas before, I
Yeah.
imagine it was a much more complex process of onboarding, integrating, and so on and so forth. So times have
Yes.
changed. And I
Yes.
guess we are in the time of independence stepping up, and we're realizing that, which is awesome to see. I again, when I saw the post, I just thought
Power
that
to
was
the
so
independent. Power
interesting.
to the independence. Right.
Power to the independence. There you go. There you go. And again, that this actually brings me really nicely onto my next question. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but you do travel across the globe. You go to
Hmm.
many of the most, I guess, known and I want to say prestigious, but well-known conferences, events, gatherings of some of the brightest and most intelligent people in our industry. And you get to sit down with them in intimate settings and be able to talk to them. What I would love to know, and I almost want to pick your brain here because there'll be a lot of people out there that would love to hear this. Are there any trends or takeaways that you're seeing that excite someone like you? Because you must hear stuff all the time, but is there anything out there that you're thinking, yeah, this is really exciting me, or something you've heard recently, or as I say, trends that we should be mindful of as an industry that we can look forward to, I suppose?
Um, I'm excited about so many things. I don't know where to start, but I think first in the space that we operate in, there is more and more capabilities and data sitting in one platform, right?
Sure.
So what we hear, what we went to our client advisory board a couple of years ago and said, what is the number one priority? What is the number one pain point that you feel is out there? And they said, bring marketing and revenue management closer together. There's too many
Sure.
silos, right? So we went and created a product to bring revenue management and marketing closer together. Then we heard that there is a lot of swivel chairing going on, where you just go between solutions and
Sure.
logins and looking at different data. So we build a BI tool that captures all the data that we have and displays it in a way that's really user friendly. And we just launched a product called RDA, Rate Data Advantage, which feeds in rate data, rate shopping data, and augments it 400 times more data than usual, than the normal rate shopping. So we're aggregating more data and we're bringing in more data in one place. And that's what I'm really excited about. The capabilities that AI gives us is to just deal with these enormous data sets and
Sure.
translate them into decisions that are very easy and simple to understand for people.
Right.
And we'll see more and more of that, because with AI, well, you're not unlimited because you're limited by the cost, but you have the power of aggregation and the power of consolidation, and
Yeah.
to creating these amazing consolidated data sets that provide you insights and capabilities that you'd never had before.
Yeah.
So we will see more and more of that, where data comes into one place and allows a person not to deal with 10, 15 different solutions, but
Sure.
maybe one, just with one or two.
Right. Okay. Really interesting. And again, with the AI subject, and I want to give a bit of a
Mm.
shout out to David at San Antonio Marriott, who you gave a shout out on that post, because although AI is amazing, and what I'm seeing coming out from the sort of, especially the tech guys, because obviously we have a lot of tech solutions on the show, is it's great still to see true hospitality at its best without having, as you said in your post, I think, without having a system, without having this, without having that. It was just a
Yes.
human being seeing another human being, and
Yes.
the very essence of hospitality shone through. Because again, I don't have it in front of me, but from memory, they only
Yeah.
serve black coffee. Well, you wanted a cappuccino. All of a sudden, David, wherever you are, David, in the world, if you ever watch this, shout out to you. He goes straight over to the cafe, gets you a cappuccino, brings it back, and hey presto, you're a very happy customer, to a point
Right.
where he may not even know who you are, but your post has probably gone out to thousands of people globally, and that's an amazing thing. So AI,
I hope
you're
it gets back
amazing.
to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such a great story. In 25, I said that in 25 years of
Yeah.
travel, it's never happened to me, right? How many times have you walked into a hotel
Oh,
restaurant
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm like, can I have a something more sophisticated than just American black coffee?
Yeah.
And they're like, sorry, that's all we have.
Yeah.
And that was the case. And he's like, sorry, that's all we have. I'm like, oh. And um and he saw me. He's like, what would you like? I'm like, I'd really like a cappuccino, but you're busy. The restaurant's full. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
I'm fine, right? I made sure to know that he shouldn't be bothered. Off he goes and comes back and puts the cappuccino in front of me. I'm like, this is incredible, right?
Yeah.
And how many times have you heard the no? I've heard no for 25 years, and it's the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
time where somebody said, "Listen, I'm just going to go and do it anyway," right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then later on, I found out he's been there for 40 plus years, and
I
he's only
know.
ever had seven sick days in his life, and he's been the most dedicated employee, probably one of them at the hotel I was staying at. So
Yeah.
incredible experience, and I thought it's such a great contrast to what we're talking about the
Yeah.
whole week, which is all about technology and AI and these systems and
Yeah.
machines. And here's a person who just anticipates and
Correct.
reacts to my body language, right?
Yes.
Without me actually. Well, I said something, but I said, "Don't bother," right? Don't
Yeah.
worry about it,
Yeah.
and still went off and did it, right? The great. I thought it was a great story. Yeah.
Ah, honestly, when I saw it, because we are living in this AI world where everything is
Yeah.
one click away, but for a smile, and again, anybody that's not in our industry, I just want to stress this, anyone that's not in hospitality probably will have a hard time understanding how much of a big deal that is. But to be able to read the room, read the person, and just act on that without sort of, you know, putting together a big sort of scenario and, oh, look at
No.
me. It was just a very silent gesture of, this is what he wanted, this is what you've got. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
anyway, moving
Thank
away
you.
from that, but shout out to David. So something that, again, we all know, ideas are always up to something. They've always got something going on. They're always launching something. There is never a time that I've ever heard of where ideas have sat still. And that's an awesome
Mm.
thing and a great thing for our industry to continue to drive forward. But I suppose that brings me on to my next question, which is what, and obviously I know you probably can't tell us everything, but what does the future hold for ideas at the moment? Is there anything exciting, any developments going on that you can share with us in the pipeline, anything that we can shout about?
Yeah, we've actually, as I mentioned, we've launched a couple things already this year. So we've
Yes.
been
Yeah.
busy. We've launched the Rate Data Advantage, which is our new rate shopping integration, which is now in place. 1,600 hotels, I think, as of last week, in
Amazing.
100 days, which is incredible. Spotlight, which is our integration between marketing or provides marketing departments insight into future demand and the
Right.
potential to influence that demand, which is also an industry first, which is great. Came out of
Yeah.
the innovation lab, and we are hard at work to. Everyone talks about AI. Our philosophy is
Yeah.
we have had AI at the core since our first day as a company with what we call now math AI, right? It used to be
Right.
called, MLLs and all the science AI stuff, right? That's
Right.
been around for 60 years now. We've always had math AI at the core, so
Sure.
we're the leaders in algorithms and scientific, translating of data into decisions and making these pricing recommendations around the world. I think billions and billions of times every day where we deliver rates to hotels around the world before 8 a.m. local time.
Yeah.
And now we're working on augmenting that with generative AI capabilities, right? So
Right.
how do you create a new user experience that is natural language based, it's conversational, and how do you take what we have in LLM models and infuse the math AI with Gen AI, right?
Right.
So you're bringing the science and the mathematics, and you're putting this layer on top where the system can interact with you, recommend what to do, make decisions on behalf of you if you want to, right? And
Right.
you can have a much simpler natural language conversation with the system. So we're very hard at work on that. We have our client conference coming up in 2 weeks or 3 weeks,
Right.
so we'll talk a lot about that in the
Yeah.
future. And then later this year, some of these capabilities are going to start to come out, and we'll talk more about that in detail. But like
Yeah.
any technology company, you have to reinvent yourself in this age of generative AI,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're going to be irrelevant. So we've been for the last 2 years very hard at work on doing that,
Yeah.
and we feel very, very good about it. The people that have seen the technology are very excited about it.
Mm.
So I think we're on a good track.
Amazing.
And we'll see what, in the next 6 to 8 months, how that's going to translate out in the industry. But
Absolutely.
every company has to be on this journey. Otherwise, you're not going to be relevant in the next 5 years, right?
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. And I
Yeah.
think, again, it breeds a very exciting period of time for the industry, but especially within, of course, the hotel tech side. But it's allowing, I think, again, from what you said, just taking, again, so from the independent side, if they're not as sophisticated in terms of their tech, but if they had a
Mhm.
platform that allowed them to use simple language to be able to get, and again, I use the word simple very carefully, because what you
Yeah.
guys do is, of course, not simple, but it is a straightforward way for a client, or of course an independent or a smaller group, to be able to use an incredibly advanced and sophisticated piece of tech, but in a way that works for them, which is of course the main thing. There was this age, I had a conversation, it would have been a couple of years ago now, but with one of the tech guys, and there was this perception that big hospitality tech companies very
Mhm.
rarely were in touch with the industry. It was sort of like they were solving problems that the industry weren't sort of really looking for. Whereas
Yeah.
ideas have always had that real thumb on the pulse in terms of understanding what the industry wants. And that probably comes from the event that you spoke about in a couple of weeks with the client event. I imagine there's a lot of feedback, there's a lot of back and forth, and an opportunity for them to be heard and for ideas to be able to take that away and work on that. I guess that's got to be part of the success of how ideas have got to where they are today, right?
It's part of our DNA. We feel we're incredibly close to our clients.
Yeah.
Do we make everyone happy 100% of the time? Certainly not. But we try really, really hard to be very, very close to our clients. And some of our biggest innovations have been driven by
Yeah.
clients' requests and
Yeah.
conversations. Like I talked about Spotlight, bringing marketing
Yes.
and revenue management together, and the RDA. These are all things that have come from conversation with clients.
Mm.
We have another one called Portfolio Navigator, which we launched last year, which is a workbench that works across multi-property portfolios, where one
Right.
person can not control, but can manage many properties at a portfolio level. And that's come out of a conversation with one of our clients who said,
Yeah.
I need capabilities to be able to run 50 hotels with one person, not just
Yeah.
10 hotels with one person, right? So we constantly have this dialogue with the industry, with our clients and prospects. We try to listen very hard. We can't,
Mm.
make everyone's wish come true tomorrow, but we feel that we're very close to our clients, and what we hear is our clients also feel that they're very close to us, and
Yes.
we try to make it as a positive experience as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the other part of our DNA, is that we never stand still. Our founders are
No.
still here.
Yep.
They get out of bed every morning asking, how do we move faster, and how do we innovate harder, and
Yeah.
what do we change to make life better for our hotels? And that's been driving them for the last 35 years. And I get asked, at least every week, it's like, okay, what else can we do, and how else can we innovate, and what's not working, and what do we need to do better? So they're
Yeah.
also relentless, and that drives through the entire organization.
Yeah. And again, you can see it from the outside. You can
Mm,
see it. And
mm.
I said it before you even said that. Just you guys just don't seem to sit still. And again, that's what we want to see from hotel tech. We don't want to see anybody sit still, of course, but you guys always seem to be
Yeah.
leading the way with that. Well, Klaus, I want to say a massive thank you to you for taking the time out. As I say, I know you've had an incredibly busy few days.
I
So
had
to
my
get you.
cappuccino, though. That's fine. I had my cappuccino, right?
Exactly. What I would love to do is say in
Right.
6, 8 months' time, we have another catch up, find out how things are going,
Love
look
to.
at the developments that have
Yes.
happened. Ideas I've always had a good relationship with various people at Ideas. I want to say another big shout out to Michael McCartan, because he was heavily involved in organizing the sponsorship from ideas for our M&E, so meetings and events revenue management white paper,
Yeah.
volume 2, that we launched in the January of this year at Global Revenue Forum, which of course you were at, Klaus. So ideas in lots of ways have supported me and my business, just again through Michael and some other people within the business. But what you guys do to enable people out there to be able to drive change is a big deal. And you guys did that with us. So a massive shout out to Ideas and the whole team there that made that happen. And a big shout out to you, Klaus, because again, I know you're incredibly busy traveling all over the place, and to spend some time with me on here, it's a great privilege. So thank you so
Of
much.
course. No, I always love having the conversation and appreciate me having you on the show. And we'll talk again, and before the end of the year, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
again, thank you so much. I'll leave you to the
Thanks,
rest
Tom.
of your week. And guys, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. As I said at the start, we love to bring you fantastic content with amazing leaders just like Klaus from the commercial, from the operational, and from the hotel tech space. To do this, we need a fantastic community around us, and it is growing. But if you can take that moment, press that subscribe button, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.